and Pharmaceuticals in association with Higher Secondary Principals Forum.
Hello students, welcome to geography class. Today we will be learning about chapter 3 of geography, and the topic what we are going to learn today is population composition. There will be a question in your mind, what is the importance of studying population composition? We all know the population of any country, of any region is diverse in many respects. In what way we can distinguish the population of a given area, the population of a particular country? It could be distinguished based on sex, based on gender. It could be distinguished based on occupations. It could be distinguished based on their age. So today we will be learning a chapter, population composition. What are the topics that we are going to cover today is we will be learning about sex composition, we will be learning about age structure, the various population pyramids, then we will be learning about the rural urban composition, occupational structure and literacy. So let us start. So today's topic, population composition, sex composition. Now here there is a question, why is it that we need to know about the sex composition? What is the importance in studying sex composition? The first and foremost thing is we need to know the status of women in society. Sex composition study helps us in knowing the status of women in the society. Secondly, we come to know about the equity between the males and females in the society. And these are the two reasons why we have to study sex composition. Now, sex composition is actually an important demographic feature of the population. In this, we are going to learn now an important concept, what is sex ratio. In simple way, we can define a sex ratio is a ratio of women and men in a given population, or sex ratio is defined as number of females per 1,000 males. This is a symbolic representation of the sex ratio. So here is a definition. It is a ratio between the number of women and men in a population. Now there are different ways which are being followed by different countries to calculate sex ratio. In some countries, the formula uses male population upon female population into 1,000, and it is expressed as number of males per 1,000 females. But in some countries, like how it is followed in India, it is female population upon the male population into 1,000, and it is expressed as number of females per 1,000 males. So you can read it on the screen. It is expressed as number of males per 1,000 females, and in countries like India, it is expressed as number of females per 1,000 males. Now we have next very important topic, reasons for unfavorable sex ratio. Now if you travel the various parts of the world, if you take into consideration the developed countries and developing countries of the world, the sex ratio in these countries is favorable and unfavorable. Now some of the developed countries, if you travel, the sex ratio is going to be favorable, like European nations. But if you travel some of the Asian and African countries, you will find in these countries the sex ratio is unfavorable. So we need to know what are the reasons behind unfavorable sex ratio. So the following are the reasons behind unfavorable sex ratio. First topic is gender discrimination. Now what is this gender discrimination? It is a discrimination between the male and female based on caste, or maybe to a certain extent based on race. And the countries where there is a gender discrimination, which is very much rampant there, the sex ratio in these countries is always unfavorable. Now the countries where you have an unfavorable sex ratio, where there is a practice of gender discrimination, you will find there are some common practices which is followed in these countries. I'll show you an images of this. Very common practice you will find in these countries is female feticide. Now what is this female feticide? Is killing a girl child in a womb, not allowing her to see the world. This is actually an act of cruelty. In many of these countries, what has happened is that due to advancement in technology, the sex of a child is been determined in advance. And once it is sure that it is a girl child, that particular baby which is there in the womb, a girl, is been killed. Now we all know we are the one who belongs to a rigid society. We can consider Indian society to be a part of that, wherein we want only a boy. There is more preference given to a boy. That's why you will find there is an abortion of a girl child who is there in mother's womb. At the same time, you have a practice of female infanticide. Now what is female infanticide is, once a newly born girl sees the world, because of certain reasons, she has been killed. Like for example, in the society, girl child is considered to be an financial obligation. If you travel in some remote areas of India, you will find a father has to pay a lakhs of rupees to pay for dowry. They require money for marriage. They can't even afford to carry on to look after a girl child. And because of this, you will find even after the girl is born, she has been killed, and that is called as female infanticide. Another reason could be domestic violence against women. You can see here clearly it is shown in an image. There are dowry deaths which are shown there here. A dowry death every 78 minutes. There is a sexual harassment of women. There is a torture of women in society. So where all these practices are prevalent, such regions or such countries will have unfavorable sex ratio. Another reason could be lower socioeconomic status. I would like to express the rigid society, the traditions what we follow. We considered boy to be a Kuladipak of family, means what he is going to look after the family. So we need to provide them better education when he is going to look after the family. And the girl's education has been neglected. What we believe is the duty of a woman is only to look after the family, to provide food, to bring water, to wash the clothes of the family members. They are not allowed to take education. This is an example of lower socio-economic status. This also could be one of the reasons for unfavorable sex ratio. Next, we would like to go to sex ratio in the world. Now, if you see what is an average sex ratio in the world, there are 990 females behind 1000 males. And if you see the country which has recorded the highest sex ratio in the world, it is Latvia. This is the map of Latvia. So this country has recorded the highest sex ratio in the world, wherein there are 1,187 females behind all 1,000 males. And the country with the lowest sex ratio in the world is UAE, wherein there are only 486 females per 1,000 males. If you consider the countries of the world, there are 139 countries of the world where the sex ratio is favorable, and 72 countries are the one where the sex ratio is unfavorable, which are been listed by United Nations. Some of the Asian countries where the sex ratio is unfavorable, I would like to mention the names of these countries. Our own country is there in that list. You have India, China, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia. These are the Asian countries where the sex ratio is unfavorable. I would just like to mention an example of some of the countries of Europe. If you travel various parts of Europe, in some areas, the sex ratio is favorable for women. Now, the reason behind this could be migration of males in the urban area. So, you will find the sex ratio is favorable in these regions. Okay. Next very important concept to be learned is age structure. Now, what is age structure? Age structure represents the number of people in different age group. So, when the country's population is being classified, categorized, put into different age groups, that is called as age structure. So, in simple words, age structure represents the number of people in different age groups. Now, which are the groups wherein we have categorized the entire population? We have three main groups. One is first group below 15 years, which is considered to be an young population, or we can consider them to be children. Then the second group is 15 to 59, which is adult population, and the last category is above 60 years, aging population or aged population. Now, first category of age structure, that is children, they are economically unproductive and they need to be provided with food, clothing and shelter by their parents. At the same time, the aging population which is there also needs to be provided with health care facilities. You have to provide resources, health resources to this population. So, more expenditure is there on health facilities. And very important category is working population. The country's population, if it is higher in the second category, working population, there is going to be more economic development, more economic growth of that country. Because these are the people who contributes in GDP of that nation. So, this is all about age structure. Next very important topic to be learned is age sex pyramid. Now, what is age sex pyramid is? It refers to number of males and females in different age groups, and that is called as age sex pyramid. Now, here is an example of age and sex pyramid of Nigeria 2003. On the x-axis you can see the percentage of the males and females population. On y-axis you can see the different age groups starting from 0 to 4 and above 80. So, you will find the females represent the right hand side of the pyramid and the males represents the left hand side of pyramid. Now, age structure is very, very important to know the distribution of male and female in different age groups. It is very, very important in economic planning of a country, or maybe you can think of framing the different policies for the welfare of the people. I would just like to mention, we all are facing a pandemic right now, COVID-19. Italy was the country who is actually a biggest sufferer. Many deaths occurred in Italy, and the place where it originated is China. Now, what was the problem in case of Italy was, there was higher percentage of old age population. So if there would have been a measure which could have been followed of social distancing, then this particular idea could have worked. In China, what happened is that they had less of the aged population, and there was a less effect. Death casualties were less in this country. So for that, it is very, very important to know the number of males and females in different age structure. The shape of the pyramid gives you an idea about the various population characteristics. What it means is like whether the population of a particular country is increasing, expanding, whether there is a negative growth of population, you can make out from the shape of population pyramid. So the left side shows the percentage of the males and the right side shows the percentage of females. We will be studying about 3 types of population pyramids. The first population pyramid is expanding population. Okay. You can see here, this is an expanding population pyramid of Nigeria 2020. You can see the population also. Now, what are the features of expanding population pyramid? You can clearly see here what is the shape of this pyramid. So, the first point is this particular population pyramid is triangular in shape. It has a wide base and a tapering top. Now, what does this means is, you will find there is higher population of young population here, people in this particular population pyramid. And here if you see, there is less population of the aging population categories. What it means is, it means the birth rate and the death rate are higher in terms of expanding population pyramid. We will see the features, you can make out here. It is triangular in shape with wide base and tapering top. It represents less developed countries. It has a larger population in lower age group, indicating high birth rate. Now, what are the examples of expanding population pyramid? You will find Nigeria is one, Bangladesh is there, and Mexico. The second one, constant population pyramid. Again, if you see here, this particular population pyramid is bell shape and it tapers towards top. Now, the best example of this type of population pyramid is Australia. Here, the birth rates and the death rates are almost equal, leading to a constant population growth. It has also a high life expectancy. Yes. Next, we have declining population pyramid. Now, what are the features of declining population pyramid? This particular population pyramid has a narrow base and a tapering top. Now, what this indicates is the birth rates and the death rates are very low. Now, if the birth rates and the death rates are very low, the population growth in the developed countries, you will find that it is going to be zero. Or else, there is going to be a phase where it is going to be negative growth of population. And the best example of this is Japan or some of the European nations where the population pyramid is declining population pyramid. So these are the three population pyramids supposed to be learned. Okay, next we have rural urban composition. Now what is rural urban composition? When we classify a particular area based on the residents, it is called as rural urban composition. Now why do we have to classify the population based on residents? Because both these areas you can see here, one is urban area, this is rural areas. Both these areas differs in different aspect pertaining to their social condition, their culture, then population density, the means of earning their livelihood. In all these different aspects, these two areas differ. That's why we have to study rural urban composition. Now I would like to give in two basic difference between the rural and urban areas. One is the dominant activity in rural areas, as we all know, is going to be primary activities. Most of the people will be engaged in farming or agriculture. Whereas if you go in the urban areas, the dominant occupations of the people is going to be manufacturing or secondary sector, or maybe engaged in tertiary activities. The density of population will consider. The density of population in the rural areas is low as compared with urban areas. So urban areas have high density of population. So these two differences you can remember. Okay. Next, what is the topic is rural urban sex composition. Now if you see the rural urban sex composition, there is a clear picture that in some areas there are more females than the males, and the areas where there are more males than the females. Now we will see an example of Western countries. Now what is the case with Western countries? The males outnumber females in rural areas. So there are more number of males than the females in rural areas of Western countries, maybe USA, Canada and some of the European countries. Now what could be the reason behind this? Why males outnumber females in rural areas of Western countries is because of this. If you see here, the agriculture, the farming there is highly mechanized. Advanced technology is used in that. And it is a male occupation in these countries. That's why the males have outnumbered females in rural areas. At the same time, you will find the females have outnumbered males in urban areas of the Western countries. Now what could be the reason is? The reason is going to be availability of vast job opportunities for females in these urban areas. Next, we will consider the sex composition in developing countries of the world like Asian and African nation. Here, the males have outnumbered females in urban areas. Now what could be the reason behind this is male dominant migration to urban areas. If you go in various parts of Africa, parts of Asia, maybe you can consider India, urban areas provides lots of employment opportunities, and in these countries it is male who migrates there in the urban areas. So males have outnumbered females in urban areas. In case of rural areas, females outnumber males in these countries, and the main reason behind that is this. So there is high participation of women in farming activities. That's why there are more number of females in rural areas than the males in these countries of Asia and Africa. I'll just mention about this. There are some reasons what discourages women in migrating to urban areas. There are so many problems. What are the problems? Some of them I have really listed here. There is shortage of housing there. The cost of living is very high. Then there is a shortage of jobs for the females there. And very, very important reason is lack of security for females in these regions. So these are points which tells us about what are the reasons behind reluctant of women's in migrating to urban areas. Next very important topic, literacy. Literacy is very, very important indicator of socio-economic development of a particular country. Now, who is literate in India? According to census of India, a person above 7 years of age who can read and write with understanding in any language and perform arithmetic calculation is considered as literate in India. Now, literacy is very, very important indicator of economic development of country. The level of economic development is actually a cause and consequence of literacy. Higher the literacy, higher is an economic development or economic growth of the nation. At the same time, if higher the economic growth, there could be an improvement in literacy rate in a particular nation. You can read it on the screen, the definition of a literate person in India and the importance of literacy, because literacy indicates the standard of living. What are the educational policies framed by the government of India to improve education, the status of females in society? You get to know about this because of literacy. Last topic for today is occupational structure. Now, what is occupational structure is distribution of population according to different types of occupation. We have classified the occupations in three major sectors. Which are those three major sectors? The primary sectors, the secondary sector and the tertiary sector. We have one more sector which is not there on the screen as such. It is called as quaternary activities. So we have what it is called as primary activities, secondary activities, then tertiary activities and quaternary activities. So when we divide the entire population based on their occupation, it is called as occupational structure. Now, the examples of these activities you can see there. What are the examples of primary activities? These activities are related with extraction of the resources from the nature. Like your fishing is there, forestry is there, mining is there, agriculture is there. In case of secondary activities, it is manufacturing. In case of tertiary, it includes all the services. Like we have trade, we have transportation, we have communication, banking, insurance, all these services are included in tertiary sector. And next category is your quaternary activities. Quaternary activities are information based or research and development based activities. Now, if you take into consideration the developed economies of the world, these countries will have higher percentage of population engaged in secondary and tertiary. And if you think of the underdeveloped countries or developing countries of the world, maybe from Africa, maybe from Asia, most of the people will be engaged in primary activities. So we are finished with the third chapter, population composition. Thank you so much.
Prudent Scholars, powered by Lupin Pharmaceuticals.